Hey my dudes, my name is Cecilia and welcome to my kitchen here in Stockholm, Sweden. I run a 1-day-a-week bakery pop-up from right here in my apartment. It's called Bageriet Lördag, the Saturday bakery. I sell pastry boxes and each box gets 4 pastries. Each week I do a new menu, and this week I wanted to kind of play with traditional Swedish favorites and flavors. So here's the menu. First up, we have almond mini cakes with cherry jam and an amaretto Swiss meringue buttercream, chokladboll cookies, kladdkaka with white chocolate and raspberries, and last but not least, kardemommebullar, traditional Swedish-style cardamom buns. Let's get baking. Wednesdays are all about preparation. I have my list for the whole week written out and it's on my fridge so I can check it easily. I started by toasting some almonds. I wanted them to bake and then cool while I was busy weighing up ingredients. This is how I begin every week of bakery prep, by scaling all my ingredients for everything I'm going to make so that I don't have to think about it when I actually go to bake. Things like this are really important. I think people get caught up in the process of actually baking or the end result, eating something really tasty, and they love those things and they think that they're really cozy and cute and fun. And then when they want to turn their hobby into a business, they hit this wall of extreme difficulty because they're trying to do what they've always done, which is make a cute little cake or whatever and vibe, and it doesn't work like that. Baking and cooking at a professional level is all about systems, and you're only as strong as your weakest system. Anyone can make a great cake once or twice, a little practice, and you'll get there. What is hard is making that same great cake day in and day out. Cakes that are not only great, but exactly the same for every single customer, because that's hospitality. Why should person A get the ugly or even just not that great version, but person B gets the best? That's not very kind. That's not hospitality. Everyone who is paying for your product should have the exact same experience, and that experience should be great. Otherwise, what's the point? Remember, proper preparation prevents poor performance. Also, after last week, I decided to stop being lazy and label my containers properly. Someone in my comments said that they always hated cutting tape and not ripping it because they thought it was useless, and they would get into arguments with their chefs about it. In their mind, I think, it didn't matter. It was such a small thing that doesn't affect the customer at all, so who cares? And I've been thinking about this all week because I've never really sat and thought about why do we cut tape? But I think, and this is just my view on the topic, it's important because details and trying your best are important. It is the cleaner, more visually better way to work. And while the customer is never going to see it, all those seemingly little insignificant details add up to a final product. The restaurants I've worked at that are religious about cutting tape were also the ones that cared about every single tiny little detail, and all those details added up to them being some of the very best restaurants in the world. I step into other restaurants and maybe the chefs care so much about the food and the customer experience, but they don't cut their tape. They are 1000% cutting other corners too. And while my meal at those restaurants may be lovely and I have nothing to complain about, it's never going to be the best meal of my life. And of course, before you bean soup me, there are a million exceptions to this rule, obviously. But in my experience, it's easier to make everything high level and have high standards across the board than it is to try to have high standards in one place and then very lax standards in another place. It's frustrating and confusing for everyone involved, from the chef to the cooks to the customers, because it doesn't foster consistency. And what is the most important thing in bakeries and restaurants? Consistency. Anyway, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. This week's small tasks were chopping the toasted almonds, chopping Luxardo maraschino cherries, and soaking or washing butter in amaretto for an amaretto SMBC. I also separated out egg whites for the SMBC and then folded boxes. Every week I get a little faster and more efficient. On Thursday, I started off the day kind of on the wrong foot. I always make buns on Thursdays because they need to freeze overnight, and it's just the best day to make them. I also had to make kladdkaka, which is like a Swedish sticky chocolate cake. I started the day off by making the kladdkaka batter. The butter and the chocolate had to melt, the eggs needed to be mixed, the baking pans lined with parchment and cocoa pan release, and the batter needed to get made. I decided to start with this because I thought you guys, my lovely viewers, would be bored seeing me start with buns on a Thursday, again. So I thought I'd mix it up a little bit. But as I was prepping the kladdkaka, I got mad at myself. It was a waste of time to start this before the buns. The cardamom bun dough takes 25 minutes in the mixer. I had no other small tasks on my list today besides making the butter filling for the buns. This meant that I had a 25-minute window in my day where I wasn't really doing anything. The kladdkaka batter had already been made, round 1 of bun dough was mixing, the butter filling took me approximately 1 minute to mix together, and then what? I just stood there for 20 minutes. Well, no, I didn't. I did the dishes and I replied to some comments, but still, it was inefficient. It would have been much better to get the the first round of dough on, and while mixing it, make the kladdkaka batter and do all the things I needed to do for that. As it was, I just had some extra time to stand around today. Again, not really a problem, but I talked so much yesterday about small things and systems that I just wanted to point out where I can also be inefficient at times. Every single day and with every single action, you should think it through. You should think, how can I make this more efficient? How can I waste less time and energy? How can I make this faster, easier, better? When I was a young cook, I would always write my to-do list the day before and then memorize it. And then on the way to work the next day, spend the morning thinking like, how can I do all of these things in the most efficient way possible? I would think through every single action and movement so I could make it the most efficient I possibly could. I looked at it like a game or a puzzle. Anyway, enough about that. This day was pretty easy all in all. Both rounds of cardamom dough were really nice, and I think it's fun to shape the buns into these knots. I've been doing twisted swirls lately because that's what my favorite bakery in the world, Lannon in Edinburgh, does, and I think their buns are just so beautiful. But there's just something in me, if I'm making a Swedish cardamom bun, I gotta shape it into a knot like I did when I worked at bakeries here in Stockholm. Like, I cannot resist. I must shape it like that. The second round of buns got packed away in the freezer and I cleaned off the bench as usual. This prep day only took me a remarkable 2 hours and 20 minutes, and that's with my inefficient workflow in the beginning. This Friday was all about mini cakes. I have 48 mini cake molds, which is so convenient because I sell about 45 pastry boxes a week. It's almost like I planned that. I brushed each and every pan with pan release, which is, say it with me now, guys, equal parts oil, butter, and flour. Woohoo! I love this stuff. Make it, use it, thank me later. Once all my little guys were greased up, I made the cake batter. I love this batter. It's so easy to make and it's so good. Like, my cakes are never dry. And I mean, that's because there's like a lot of oil in this recipe, but like in a super delicious way. This week's cake also had the addition of finely chopped roasted almonds and just like a touch of almond essence. I find that straight almond can sometimes just not impart like enough flavor, and that using just a little bit of essence or extract can really make like a night and day difference in terms of flavor. Each little mold got 110 grams of batter and I bake off 12 at a time. I make all the batter at once and the baking soda is not affected. The batter holds just fine. It doesn't like change at all while it's sitting waiting to be baked. While that was all working, I started on the cookie dough. I melted the butter, and in these particular cookies I found melted butter gives them a better like texture, like almost like softer. Sugar got mixed in first to cool down the butter, and then I mixed in the eggs and then the dries and then the inclusions, which included, oatmeal, shredded coconut, and dark chocolate chips. I put it in the fridge to chill for a bit and popped together sugar and cherries to get a cherry jam started. I moved on to a white chocolate ganache, which I used as a glaze for the kladdkaka, which is Swedish sticky chocolate cake. I wish I had made more and that the layer of ganache was thicker, but next time. I scooped all the cookies using my handy dandy cookie scoop, and by the time that was done, all the cakes had also been baked and cooled. So I ran my offset around each and every mold and then flipped the cakes out. They come out so easily. Then I just scraped the bottoms off and boom, look at these cutie little cakes. Petite, fabulous, gorgeous. They are the moment. They are that girl. Get with the program. Okay, I'm sorry. You guys are already with the program. That's why you're like watching this. So like, thank you for that. I love you all so much. So anyway, jam was done, seasoned with a little bit of lemon and put away. And listen, not to toot my own horn or anything, but this was like crazy delicious. I like genuinely impressed myself. Then I made 2 batches of amaretto Swiss meringue buttercream. Let me tell you, I was struggling by this time. It was like past 8 p.m. and I'm going to be so real with you. I go to bed at like 9 because I'm an ultra super early morning person, which is great because I'm a baker, but like things get a little bit rough for me after like 8 p.m. unless I'm at the club, which is a whole different conversation that we're not going to have right now. Saturday is the busiest day of my week. Usually my fiance pulls the buns from the freezer to proof so that when I get up at 5 a.m. and turn the oven on, they're ready to bake by like 5:30, 6 a.m. But this weekend he was on a trip, so I got up at 4 a.m. to pull the buns. I was very, very sleepy. To me, 5 a.m. is a totally normal and acceptable time to wake up. It's great. It's fine. But 4 a.m., that's early. And like 3:55 a.m., that's nighttime. That's not wake up time. Then I took a nap for 30 more minutes, got up, put my lights on, got dressed, did my makeup, made some coffee. The defrosted cookies were baked off. I did 12 per tray, so that's 4 trays, and I rounded them a bit as they came out of the oven. I consolidated them and then made my speed rack into a proof box using a plastic cover and a pot of simmering water on an induction. Next up was the kladdkaka. Oh my god, remind me to never make this again. I'm so sorry, you guys. I know it's popular and it's so delicious, but Jesus Christ. This is such a pain in the butt to cut. Once I battled through that, I brushed some melted dark chocolate on the cookies and then dipped them in shredded coconut so that they would look like chokladboll, which are like Swedish chocolate balls. The buns were finally proofed, so I threw the first tray in and returned to the kladdkaka. I put 3 raspberries on each. These raspberries were from Skåne and were so good. Buns came out of the oven and I brushed them with egg wash and topped them with cardamom sugar. The egg cooks on contact with the fresh out of the oven, super hot buns, and it creates this really beautiful dull shine and helps keep the buns soft and moist. While the buns were baking in rounds, I re-whipped the Swiss meringue buttercream and then cut all the cakes in half. Usually I don't do this because it takes so much extra time, but I had a vision, so I just hustled a little bit extra. I piped a ring of buttercream on each half and then filled the middle with a teaspoon of cherry jam. I put the top little layer on and then piped flowers on each little cake. In the middle of each flower, I placed half a Luxardo maraschino cherry. Matilda came over to help me pack boxes, but I was like super behind, so I did not film any of that. We took the wagon out to the park and waited for people to pick up their boxes. And that's it for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've typed up the recipe for the chokladboll cookies and it's now on my Substack for paid subscribers. To get Bageriet Lördag pre-order announcements, updates, and vlogs in Swedish, follow at Bageriet Lördag on Instagram. For behind-the-scenes vlogs in English, you can follow me on either TikTok or Instagram at Cecilia.Talone. And for long-form videos just like this one, as well as recipe tutorials, you can hit that subscribe button down below. I hope that you have a great week, and I'll see you around next week. Hej då!